Is it possible for the best basketball player in the entire world to hate the game? I mean, really, it almost sounds like a Disney movie, where you've got a guy who may be really, really good, but has a love for theater instead.
Watch out for the pick and keep an eye on the fence. Gotta run the give and go.
When you think of NBA greats like Michael Jordan, for example, what almost immediately comes to mind is his dedication to the game. Michael Jordan's unwavering dedication to basketball is one of the most well-documented aspects of his legendary career. His obsession with basketball went beyond mere passion, and it was a driving force behind his unparalleled success. I mean, you look at Kobe Bryant, the Mamba mentality. Kobe was so obsessed with the game that it cost him friendships because he didn't have time to nurture. His obsession often left him isolated in a sport that lauds the importance of team play. Kobe was simply the guy who wanted it more than just about everybody. And I'm not talking about every single one of his peers. I mean, he wanted it more than literally everybody in the history of the game. You see, obsession seems to coincide with the greats. But it raises the question, what if it's just a job for you? What if it gets to the point where you dread it even though you are dominant? Can you truly still be great? Can you still go down as one of the best to ever do it? Or will it slowly ruin your career? Let's look at last summer. There was a man standing alone at the top of the NBA world. One man that finally took the next step and etched his name into the conversation of legends. Last year's postseason run by Nikola Jokic will go down as one of the most impressive performances in NBA history. Jokic was the first player in NBA history to record more than 500 points, 250 rebounds, and 150 assists in a playoff campaign. And if that record wasn't enough, Jokic has also become the first player to score 3 30-20-10 games in the NBA playoffs. This man single-handedly did more for his team than any single player has done in any playoff series in NBA history. Statistically speaking, that is. But for Nikola Jokic, being at the top seemingly just isn't what he wanted at all. To understand this issue, we need to look at where it all began. Once an obese, Coca-Cola guzzling child with a curious obsession with horses and harness racing, Nikola Jokic was a long shot for NBA stardom. See, Nikola was born in Sombor, Serbia, a small town with about 40,000 residents. It was located in the northern part of the country near the borders of Croatia and Hungary. This town is surrounded by agricultural fields, rolling hills, and flowing streams. We have really nice nature, Jokic told Slam in 2016, but he said that it was the people there. Everyone around him was like family. He grew up in a small 2-bedroom apartment that housed him, his 2 brothers, their parents, and their grandmother. His brothers, Nemanja and Starhina, were the ones who helped pique his interest in basketball. The Joker, he was the youngest child, and by a lot. He was 11 years younger than his next closest sibling. Nikola said from an early age, basketball was always in his life. His 2 older brothers actually played professionally. He said that he fell in love with basketball because of them and how they would always play together. Nikola was a family man. I mean, his first exposure to the game was a toy hoop hanging on the door in his family's home. Basketball truly ran in his family's blood, and at this point in time, there was true love for the game. And Jokic quickly developed his skill set as a kid. This included a sharp passing game, which has become one of the hallmarks of his NBA career, and despite his crazy height now, his physical abilities at the time were lacking. An old gym teacher once said in a radio interview, Nikola loved playing with the ball more than anything. On the other hand, gym and athletics, he did not love. I always had to push him to do more gymnastics. His English teacher from grade school even continued to say, as a heavier kid, he had problems with his physical education. He really struggled. You see, Nikola, he loved basketball, but as a kid, he was out of shape and he wasn't really the best. And like most kids, when this happens, it leads to other hobbies. Jokic grew up on a farm and was always around animals, but one animal in particular stood out, the horses. As a teenager, he would fall in love with horses, specifically trotters. Now, I'm no horse guy, so I had to look up what this meant, and according to Wikipedia, the difference is that a trotter moves its leg forward in diagonal pairs, whereas a pacer moves its legs laterally. Still doesn't make much sense, but trotters are the ones used in harness racing, not horseback racing. So that means they sit in a little chair behind the horse and it pulls them, so Jokic's gigantic frame could actually fit. There's a racetrack in his hometown, and he was introduced to that early. He actually even worked there for 6 years cleaning the stalls. When asked about his time working there, Jokic had said, I just enjoyed being with them, just to clean them up, just to ride with them. I enjoyed all of that. Now Nikola, he was about 14 years old at this time, and actually almost made a decision that would have changed the NBA forever. he would compete in his first harness race. Now, at this point, he was 6'11", 250 pounds. So the horse really had to put some work in, let me tell you. But the stables that he had been working at, they had a club, and they would race. Now, it wasn't professional, but in his first race ever, Jokic took home 4th. After this moment, he was hooked and actually stopped playing basketball. Jokic had completely quit for about 6 months. All he wanted to do was race. In fact, if it weren't for his father, Jokic would have pursued a career as a horseman as a teenager instead. His dad told the Associated Press, "Nikola had told me, 'Dad, I want to become a horseman.' I used to tell him, 'Son, become a basketball player first and you'll become a great horseman later.'" Luckily, Nikola Jokic listened to his father's advice, but that love for horse racing never seemed to slip away. Fast forward to a 16-year-old Jokic. He had just left Sombor to play with KK Mega Basket in Serbia's capital, Belgrade. At that time, the city of over 1 million must have felt like a metropolis to the kid from a humble farm town. When he got there, the trainers remember him struggling to complete a single push-up. And even with a 6'11" frame and 2 older brothers playing professionally, the teenager was virtually ignored by NBA teams and the media. However, things would rapidly change. He adjusted and began to dominate the Serbian league. At just the age of 20, he was named MVP of the Adriatic League, which includes teams from across Europe. He averaged 15.4 points, a league-high 9.3 rebounds, and 3.5 assists per game that season, which ended up being his last in Europe. Within 3 years of leaving his city, he was on his way to the NBA. This was a change that for most players is incredibly exciting and emotional, but for Jokic, this meant he'd have to leave his country for the first time, going to a completely different culture and country that he just wasn't used to. Jokic has always been a family man. He was incredibly close to his parents and his brothers, so leaving them now was going to hurt even more. Luckily, his brothers, they ended up dropping everything that they were doing and made the move with him, along with his hometown girlfriend. The 4 of them would get an apartment, which they all still share today in Denver, and they tried to make this small spot in Colorado feel like a sliver of home. But there was still a longing to be back in front of his people and his country, a longing to be back on his farm with his horses, a longing to be in the harness racing against the wind. As much as Nikola loved basketball, he loved these things even more. We all know where his NBA journey ended up. From an underperforming rookie to the best player in the league. With the work that he puts in, it really was only a matter of time before he became a star. And after putting up one of the most impressive postseason performances in recent history, you would think Nikola Jokic would be as passionate about the game of basketball as ever, but his comments during his historic postseason run often suggested that basketball was more of a job than anything else, even joking that he wanted to go home instead of to the championship parade. In the summer following the Nuggets' victory, Jokic spoke with reporters and told them that this might have been one of the worst summers he's ever had since being in the NBA.
This past summer, the most fun you've had since you've been in the NBA?
No, I think it's actually opposite.
Wait, why?
Because we played 2.5 extra months and recovery and everything, so it was good. But I had fun. Summers that I had more fun.
Now, obviously, these clips and his actions, they all may seem like funny jokes, but in reality, there's truth behind his words. Considering how many players have tried and failed to win an elusive NBA championship, Jokic's comments sound nuts. I mean, guys like Kevin Durant even go as far to chase rings with multiple different teams. And Jokic was able to do it with his first team that's been built around him. Jokic might have one of the most ideal situations in the NBA, and he doesn't seem to view it any differently than your average 9-to-5 employee. His mindset is what makes me question how long he would truly last in the league. Any former player will tell you how much of a grind an NBA season is year in and year out. From October to June, every day is filled with practice, shoot-arounds, games, and road trips. It's not an easy task. And in order to compete at the highest level, there is a big commitment that goes alongside that. For some, dreams of a max contract fuels their grind. For others, it's a competitive chase for a ring and lasting greatness in the NBA history books. But at this point, you've got to wonder what is driving Nikola Jokic to keep going. He's received his max contract. He has all the money he would need to live comfortably on his farm with his horses after he hangs it up. He's fresh off the highest peak of an NBA player, an NBA Finals win, earning Finals MVP in the process. Jokic has fulfilled just about every benchmark of an NBA player at this point in his career. But you see, unlike Mike, unlike Kobe, unlike LeBron, this may be where it all ends for Jokic. Now, he's still in his prime, don't get me wrong. He's the best player in the world, but more and more each day, it seems that he's done. For a Serbian-born kid who wishes he could just be home, American culture is just too much. The constant media spotlight, the constant attention, the constant public face, and being in front of fans, it's all overwhelming for him. I bet you that Jokic, more than any player in the league, hates hot takes and guys like Stephen A. the most. This guy truly doesn't care what anyone else has to say outside of his family. So you see, I don't think Nikola Jokic hates basketball. He doesn't hate the NBA or hate his job like these other YouTube channels are telling you. I think Nikola Jokic simply just hates what comes with being an NBA player. The fame, the attention, it's just not for him, and that's okay. You see, his contract ends in 2028, and I guarantee at that point, or hell, maybe even sooner, Nikola will call it quits and head back to live a small, hidden life on a farm in Serbia where we will never hear from him again. See, the grind of sports is not for everyone. It's okay to move on to other interests or hobbies. I mean, I myself had to learn that back in the day. I was once a college football player who wanted to go pro, but I made a change, and now I get to do what I truly love every single day. So in the case of Nikola Jokic, is his dwindling love for the game ruining his career? No, he will continue to be great. The only thing that it will hurt is when ESPN brings his name up in the GOAT conversation 10 years from now, and some lame dude decides to say that he isn't a legend because he decided to end his career early to finally be happy. I'm All Hail Cullen, and if you like this video or just want a deeper understanding of NBA players off the court, make sure you go down and hit subscribe, because we'll be posting here as much as we can, bringing you the behind the scene details and perspectives of your favorite NBA players. Until next time, peace.